Thanks, Todd. Good evening. I'll be brief. Actually, just want to take a moment to welcome you all here tonight as we induct this illustrious class into our Athletics Hall of Fame. You'll have an opportunity to hear more about their accomplishments a little later on tonight. But before I individually induct them, I want to congratulate them collectively for this tremendous honor. We have a rich history of successful student athletes who've gone on to do great things, but the inductees tonight cement their legacies as being some of our all-time greats. So congratulations to that. We look forward to hearing your speeches and more about your personal journeys, and we're excited to share this moment with you and your families. Also want to thank the selection committee over here. They're a dedicated group to finding the very best among us, and they certainly selected a worthy class, but there's a lot of time and energy and effort that goes into this, so appreciate them as well. So I don't want to keep people between them and their food. I learned that a long time ago, but good to be with everybody here tonight, and as always, go Bison.
Thank you, Jermaine. So before we eat, I do want to introduce our guest of honor, our inductees for tonight, who obviously you'll hear from a little later, but I want them to stand as I introduce them. First of all, from the class of 1981 and our water polo and swimming and diving programs, Mark Genshimer. From the class of 1998 and the football program, Marius Miziak. From the class of 2000 and the cross-country and track program, Carly Graytock-Shea. From the class of 2010 and the wrestling program, David Marble. And from the class of 2011 and the baseball program, Doug Shribman. I also want to recognize some of the folks that came out on behalf of our inductees tonight. First of all, Coach Scott Heather and members of the baseball team are here. Head Coach Dave Cicchini and the team captains from the football program are here. Kevin Donner, his staff, and the captains from the women's cross-country team are here. Head Coach John McBride, his staff, and members of the men's water polo team, as well as the women's captains, are here. And we've got Assistant Coach Kevin LaValle and members of the wrestling program here. So thank you to all those folks coming out and supporting our inductees tonight. Without any further ado, it's time to eat. So a member from Dining Services will come to your table. Once your table is tapped, you can go out the hallway here to the buffet, enjoy dinner, and we'll be back after dinner. Presenting the Bison Club Award. We've presented that award for over 30 years, and before I present this year's award, I'd like to recognize those that are in attendance who have won previously. So if you can just stand and stay standing until we get all of you up. So the winner in 1988, Bob Stoltz. The winner in 2001, Jerry Comerford. Look at that, they're all at the same table. And the winner in 2003, Bobby Marks. Thank you guys for all you've done for Bison Athletics. It's my pleasure to present this year's Bison Club Award to a couple, actually, husband and wife, who are both Bucknell alums, and they have done so much for Bucknell University, Bison Athletics, and in particular, the aquatics programs, particularly the water polo program. This couple has endowed the water polo program, and aside from what they've done for athletics, they have a dozen students at Bucknell on scholarship because of the two of them. So it's my pleasure to introduce the winners of the 2002 Bison Club Award, Dan and Chris Richards. Congratulations. Give my best to Chris. All right. So now it's an honor as well to introduce any Hall of Famers who come back for this event. And we are very fortunate every year to have Hall of Famers that come back to see the new inductees go into the Hall. This year we have several back, and again, please stand, be recognized, hold our applause until we get through all the Hall of Famers in attendance. From the class of 1967 and the football program, Bobby Marks. From the class of 1979 and the field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse programs, Karen Nicely. Former head softball, head volleyball, and head basketball coach and current administrator Terry Grebe. From the class of 1981 and the water polo program, Scott Schulte. From the class of 1981 and the water polo program, Tony Paxton. Seeing a theme here. From the class of 1986 and the water polo program, Jeff Hilk. From the class of 2011 and the soccer program, Krista Matlack. And from the class of 2011 and the wrestling program, Kevin LaValle. Big round of applause and welcome back to all these Hall of Famers. Mentioned all those water polo Hall of Famers. We got our eyes on that table over there. That's a motley crew. So just a few words on how the selection process works to become a member of the Hall of Fame. So you have to be out of school for 10 years, 10-year graduate. Someone can then nominate you to be a member of the Hall of Fame. Then you go before the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. It's a two-tiered voting process. If you make it through the first round of votes, you get put onto a final ballot where there's 15 finalists, and then we eventually work down to 5 that go into the Hall of Fame. Jermaine mentioned earlier the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. It is a very difficult process when you've got so many former Bucknell student athletes who are really, really good, and you have to pick 5. So I echo Jermaine's comments, and I want to thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. I'm going to introduce them now. They're all at the same table. Doug Birdsong, Jerry Comerford, Terry Grebe, Karen Nicely, Bobby Marks, Bob Schombacher, Bob Stoltz, and John Terry. Thank you so much for all the effort to produce this class. So that's how we got to the class. Now we're going to meet that class. It's my pleasure to bring forward John Terry and also Jermaine Truax for the induction ceremony. John will start introducing us, the 44th class of the Bucknell Hall of Fame. Well, before we do that, Hall of Famers, I need you guys up here. In front of your picture.
Those seats might look a little too comfortable after a big meal. Try to stay with us. All right, thank you so much, Todd. It's my pleasure to introduce our Hall of Famers tonight. Our first inductee is Mark Genshimer from the class of 1981. In the mid-1970s, Hall of Fame coach Dick Russell oversaw a very successful club water polo team, and so when the program gained varsity status in 1977, the results were immediate. Fueled by the additions of Mark and Scott Schulte, 2 of the top scorers in the history of the sport, Bucknell remarkably won 4 Eastern Championships and made 4 NCAA tournament appearances in the first 4 years at the varsity level. In that 4-year span, the Bison produced a record of 114 wins, 15 losses, and 3 ties. And their final finishes at the NCAA championships were 7th, 6th, 5th, and 7th. Pretty remarkable for the first 4 years of the program. Those who saw him play remember Mark as a terrific two-way player, and while his eye-popping offensive numbers stand out, so too does the fact that Mark's sophomore through senior years, and he's backed by a Hall of Fame goalie in Tony Paxton, the team allowed double-digit goals only 11 times in 93 games, and 4 of those 11 came in the NCAA tournament. Mark graduated with 244 goals, 152 assists, and 396 points. 42 years later, that goal total still ranks 5th in team history, and the point total still ranks 6th all time. There have only been 15 100-goal seasons in team history, and Mark has one of them. That year he tallied 108 goals and also had 73 assists on a team that finished 31, 4, and 2. One of the most talked about games in Eastern water polo history was Bucknell's 21-20 win over Pittsburgh in the 1977 Eastern Championship final game. The Bison trailed 16-14 with 45 seconds left in regulation, but found a way to tie the score and force overtime, and then Mark, just a freshman at the time, scored in sudden death to send the Bison on to the NCAA tournament. Mark was a second-team All-Eastern Championship honoree after that 1977 performance, and he was a first-team selection in 1980. Mark was also an AAU All-American after competing at the AAU Nationals between his junior and senior seasons. And then after graduating from Bucknell, he played on the East Squad at the 1981 U.S. Olympic Festival. And for the only time in the history of that event, the East team won the gold medal. Since then, Mark has remained heavily involved in the sport of water polo. He served on the board of directors for the Collegiate Water Polo Association. And in 2012, he was inducted into the CWPA Hall of Fame. So now, in recognition of his outstanding contributions in the pool, the Bucknell University Department of Athletics and Recreation is proud to welcome Mark Genshimer to our Hall of Fame, the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Mark.
All right, Mark. Upon recommendation of the appropriate selection committee, it is an honor to officially induct you into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame. A symbol of such membership I place in your hands as an expression of Bucknell's pride in your accomplishments. Congratulations.
Thanks very much. Thank you. I don't remember a lot of that, what he said there before, but I do remember there are only 35 seconds left in the game. So first of all, I just wanted to congratulate all of you great athletes. You know, it's a true honor to be inducted with all of you. You know, a lot of people will comment to us, current water polo players and ex-water polo players, how difficult a sport it is to play, but I always tell them we know how to swim. And if you know how to swim and you get used to being kicked and punched and wrestled up and down the pool, you just kind of get used to it. But I can tell you, any of the polo players here would much rather play 2 or 3 games in a day than to run the way you ran and to block and tackle the way you did and to wrestle the way you did and to stand in front of a fastball after you've been brushed back off the plate with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. So you know, what you've done is really incredible, so congratulations to all of you. So the easiest and most important and best decision of my life was actually to ask my wife, Annie, to marry me. And I'm just really glad she said yes, because now I've got 4 beautiful daughters and a bunch of grandkids and sons-in-law who are all here. But the second best decision I ever made was to come to Bucknell to play water polo. You know, both in hindsight were really obvious decisions, but you don't know what's going to happen as your life goes on. You know, I knew Bucknell water polo was going to become a club, what was a club sport, and was going to become varsity. I knew that was happening, and there was one reason why I wanted to come here. I also knew Jay Facet, who's with us here tonight. So I had played with Jay in Pittsburgh, and Jay is an awesome, awesome person. I knew that Jay was going to be the captain of the team. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know that my roommate, Scott Schulte, was going to be arguably one of the best college water polo players ever to play the sport. And anybody that played with Scotty just became better. You know, I'm from Pittsburgh, so I can kind of compare it to playing with Mario Lemieux or playing with Sidney Crosby. And then I also didn't know that Tony Paxton, who ended up being our goalie, was going to transfer from the University of Michigan. I knew him from Pittsburgh, so when they dropped their program, we kind of coaxed them to Pittsburgh. And playing in front of Tony was very similar to playing in front of Scotty. You didn't want to disappoint Tony. Tony told you what hand to have up, what person to cover, what person not to cover, and Tony just made you a much, much better player. But most importantly, I didn't realize the legacy of winning that we were inheriting there as freshmen. You know, the swimmers and the polo players, the several years before we got there, they were just winners. They were champions. The swimming and water polo team had won 6 conference championships before we got there. Jay and Dan had won 4 of them. And the water polo team had won 2 of the previous 3 Eastern championships. But unfortunately, they weren't allowed to go to represent us at NCAAs because they were a club sport. And you know, these guys were, we've gotten to know them really, really well. They were big, strong guys. Schwanhauser and Drake and Joe Trizick and Jeff Miller and Mark Sickle and Don Mole and Jay and Rick Renner. I mean, these guys, I'm telling you, they were unbelievable players, but they couldn't represent us at NCAA. So Jay and Don Mole went to the athletic director and they pleaded their case to become a varsity program. So every one of us who ever played varsity water polo at Bucknell owe these guys a huge debt because they were the ones that got us to be a varsity program. But the first time I truly appreciated this winning tradition, this expectation to win, was at the game that you had mentioned. It's Eastern Championships. It's at Pitt versus Pitt, and we had beaten them a couple times. They had beaten us the week before, but we had beaten them 2 or 3 times earlier in the season. We were winning at the half. We were winning after the third quarter. But with 35 seconds left in the game, we're losing 16-14. So in my, what do I know? This game's over. I'm a freshman. It was a 30-meter pool back then, too, not 25. So I'm all the way down the far corner. Coach calls timeout. The last thing I want to do is swim all the way down to the pool and then have to swim all the way back. And I was so disappointed because we had lost that game. And I get to the huddle, and I look at Rick Renner and Jay Facet, and they somehow didn't think that we had lost this game. So I'm thinking, well, what do I know? So we swim all the way back, and so, of course, we call a play, and who scores with 17 seconds left but Scotty, right? So then they called a timeout. So we put a goalie press on. Jay steals the ball, flips it to tilt, goes back to Jay, and Jay scores with 2 seconds left. And then, a couple overtimes and a sudden death, and we win. And it was unbelievable. This tradition that we felt in that huddle. And fortunately, it kind of continued on. And that was kind of when we decided to start going 2-a-days. We started playing in the spring, and we were practicing a couple hours. I don't even think you're allowed to do this stuff anymore in the springtime. And going to tournaments, and we decided to play in the summers, either at the New York Athletic Club or in Pittsburgh. And I'll tell you, it kind of brought our team together. And we were so proud to represent Bucknell as student athletes. And they don't call all athletes at every university student athletes. They call them athletes at most places, and we were student athletes. We had to study, and we had to take tests. And there were times that they would leave us behind, and we would have to hitch a ride with the manager or with WVBU, who would actually come and broadcast some of our games. And there was just something special about playing for Bucknell. The alumni network, it's so strong now, and I know the families are so much behind it. Scotty's dad he always had a cowbell. Every time a goal would be scored, you'd see White Hawks ringing that bell. It was really magical. And there's just something about Bucknell that's really hard to describe. My wife Annie and our 4th daughter Cece both graduated from William & Mary, so we always had this little bit of a competition. Our 3rd daughter Hannah came here, and I can tell you, when Hannah graduated from Bucknell, we're sitting at Hannah's commencement, and Annie said to me, she leaned over and she said, "Don't ever tell anybody this, but there's something really special about Bucknell." Figured I'd tell that now. So you players here tonight, number one, I really appreciate you all being here. Don't take this for granted. Those of us that are old now would do anything to be back here, to play in the facility that you play in, to play for the coach that you play for, and to play amongst this incredibly talented team. I'll tell you, it goes by so fast. So just enjoy every single second of it. The best result of my time at Bucknell are really the lasting relationships. We get together all the time. We go to each other's weddings. We vacation together. We always come back for a tournament or two and a reunion. We stay involved with the sport it's really important to stay involved with the sport, whether it be through masters or refereeing or coaching. The sport and the school has given so much to us, and I'll tell you, you can't give enough back to it. I might be the only person who ever given an acceptance speech twice at the Bucknell Hall of Fame. The first time many years ago when Scotty was being inducted, and he wasn't able to come because he had a tournament that he had to play at the New York Athletic Club. And I was coaching at Navy, and I asked the coach there if I could skip the Saturday morning game to come up here and accept it. And when I got there and realized what an incredible honor it was, I was so glad that I grabbed a sport coat and a tie before I didn't know what it was. And I'll tell you, it was such an honor to accept that award for you, Scotty, and it's such an honor now. So the reasons why I'm standing here tonight are many. One is a guy named Mike Graf got a lot of us in Pittsburgh playing water polo when we were little twerps. We're pretty good swimmers, and he got us going. And he got us going back in Pittsburgh with an incredible club team. But most importantly, I was incredibly fortunate to have been here with Scotty and Tony and Jay and Rick Renner and people like Tommy Butler, and of course the strongest arm in the East, Bronco. Over there, and then also the swimmers, Frank Polfrone and Ron Leibowitz. They were not polo players, but I remember they took me under their wing second semester freshman year, and they said, "Hey, Gens, you're not really a student athlete. You're more of an athlete student. And if you don't get your act together, you're not going to be here next year." And that really got me through. So one last comment. Annie and I have been blessed with 4 daughters and now 4 sons-in-law and 6 grandkids. And as the father of the bride at each of their weddings, I was privileged to be able to stand up in front of a large group of people and tell them how much I loved them. And the same goes here tonight for my teammates. I sincerely appreciate this recognition, but most importantly, it's really given us an opportunity to get back together again, to have a few beers at the bar, which we will later tonight too. But it also gives me a chance to stand in front of this incredible group of people and tell all you guys how much you mean to me, and you always will. So thanks very much to the committee, thanks very much to Bucknell, and thanks to all of you.
Our next inductee from the class of 1998, Marius Miziak. The mid-1990s were the most prolific stretch for the Bison football team in the Patriot League era. Led by Hall of Fame coach Tom Gadd, Bucknell enjoyed 7 straight winning seasons, captured the Patriot League championship in 1996, and finished 10-1 in 1997. Those teams had no shortage of stars, with Hall of Fame running back Ritchie Lemon, quarterback Jim Fox leading the offense, and Hall of Famers like Hunter Adams and Willie Hill leading a prolific defense. But perhaps the most unsung part of those great teams was an athletic and powerful offensive line. Marius was one of the leaders of that stout O-line, and he earned all Patriot League honors in each of his final 3 seasons. He started every game at tackle in those 3 seasons until a broken ankle sidelined him with 3 games left in his senior year. Marius and his teammates blew open holes for the aforementioned Ritchie Lemon, whose 4,742 career rushing yards will likely stand as the school record for many years to come. Marius twice earned the John Campana Award as Bucknell's top offensive lineman, and when the Patriot League announced its 15th and 25th anniversary All-Star teams, his name was called both times. In recognition of his outstanding accomplishments on the gridiron, the Bucknell University Department of Athletics and Recreation is proud to welcome Marius Miziak, class of 1998, to the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame.
All right. Upon recommendation of the appropriate selection committee, it is an honor to officially induct you into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame. A symbol of such membership I place in your hands as an expression of Bucknell's pride in your accomplishments. Congratulations. Thank you.
First of all, let me apologize for what you're about to witness. This is not natural to me, but I think I've come a long way since my first day on campus. Thank you, Jermaine, Todd, the committee, the whole Bucknell community at large for the honor. Never thought I'd be up here for this. I was very happy just getting Patriot League honors and a ring or two. That was enough. It wasn't easy to come up with much to share with you, especially with so many of my teammates having been up here for the last few years. And they absolutely deserve all the credit for all their time. So I'll spare you that and just share you some of my journey here on campus. I showed up here right out of Florida on Schwartz Hall on the August day where you guys had frost on the ground when I arrived on campus. Does not happen in Florida in August or most months. First kid I run into is another Florida kid, Sean Thompson, defensive back down in Fort Lauderdale. We hit her off, get really comfortable, and we feel great being here on campus. His host on this visit here was Willie Jackson, another defensive back from Florida. Willie Jackson's mom was my guidance counselor in high school. I got to Bucknell because I had an injury, and all the phone calls stopped. Mrs. Jackson got me on the straight and narrow to get on the phone for places like this, Lehigh, and a bunch of other schools that fit the academic mold. And I thought, just wow, how did I get here on campus with Sean? And Willie and his mom helped me do this. Just felt so lucky. It was not the same Willie Jackson. There were a lot of Willie Jacksons in Florida, and we were just sitting there for 2 hours just talking about some random people that neither of us had met from other stories. But yeah, we were here, and we were just in the moment on campus beginning our journey here. That's how naive I was about what college football was at Bucknell, this campus, and what was expected of us to be here. But people like Sean and the rest of my class, my coaches, and everybody else made this place so comfortable for me. If I was sitting in front of you 29 years at the beginning of my college career here, I would probably have somebody else speaking for me. An introverted engineering major with no experience with anything. I just wanted to get by and not get noticed for doing anything wrong. This place whipped me into shape. And I don't know how I am here today in front of you. There's no metric that I could think of that an offensive lineman meets to be standing up here as a Hall of Famer. They don't measure pancakes. They don't grade our scores for the public, and that's totally arbitrary. They used to measure some other stats that we used to get, including in our media guide. They used to measure every rushing attempt, yard, reception, and yardage for the pass reception that everybody at Bucknell used to get in football. I had one of those. Had one reception for -2 yards. I was so proud of myself. I knew I'd be the next year's media guide, and at least I'd get my notoriety from that. That was early on, and I was so happy about it. Coach Wilson was not. I got an earful about what you should and shouldn't do after that. And after that, I didn't want to get any more attention from any of the media guys or anything else. I left it to the other guys in the field with me. Rich Lemons, Ed Berman, Hunter Adams, Willie Hill, Kevin Iben. You guys know those people. They're in here. They're measured in here. I have got nothing that measures to anything they did, except that I helped get them there. And that is the only intangible that I think people like me bring to the team, to the game, and things that we do in life after we get out of here. Rich was great to block for, and he made me look good. But he couldn't get all those 4,000 some yards without me. Every other guy on defense was a ball to play against in practice. I looked forward to my time on that field. Every time we got to hit each other, there were days where they had to pull Hunter Adams and me apart because we would just take over the whole drill and not let anybody else get reps. I used to try to do that with Ed Berman before he got off of campus, but I never made my way up to that level. But that was how I got better and how I made them better. So maybe I'll take some of their credit for their numbers and how we all got here, got our accomplishments with our wins, championships, and them rewriting the record books for yards and defensive statistics. Those are important to me. But there's something else about this campus that is really special to me. And that's who it made me over my 4 years here. Other than being an immigrant off the boat, moved around the East Coast 3-4 times before I got to college, got on campus, changed my major here 4 times, not knowing what I was doing, from engineering to another engineering, to education, to accounting, to finally business management, to get out of here in 4 years because I couldn't pay a single bill for this place. Football was a great support mechanism for that. But everybody else here that helps us, me, get out the door here, those are the people that helped get me up here today. I spent all my summers here with no scholarships, nothing else. Slept on people's couches, floors, mattresses, anything I could do. Worked at the physical plant management office, the Bison, moved people's houses to keep myself here. And everybody else kept me going to work out here and get myself rolling along. So be on campus and get better every year, get better grades every year, eventually get on dean's lists every year. That's how special this place is to me. So I can't measure how well I blocked or anything like that, but I can measure how better I got when I was here on campus and with everybody else around me. So, and only now am I appreciating how special that is to me, and I just look forward to hopefully sharing that on and do my next job as a true alumni and Hall of Famer representing Bucknell. Thank you.
Our next inductee from the class of 2000, Carly Graytock Shea. Bucknell's celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX this year has provided a wonderful chance to take a look back at some of the top moments and top teams across 5 decades of women's athletics here at Bucknell. And when considering the top women's teams that Bucknell has ever had across all of our sports, the 1999 cross-country team has to be at or near the top of the list. Carly was one of the captains of that team, which not only won its 2nd straight Patriot League championship, but became the first and only Bucknell squad to qualify as a team for the NCAA championships. The Bison finished 3rd at the Middle Atlantic Regionals and placed 24th at the national championship, beating many of the nation's top programs such as Duke, Arizona, Notre Dame, UCLA, and Florida. That incredible team now boasts 3 Hall of Famers, with Carly joining Becky Marshall and Teresa Dennis in this prestigious company. In addition to helping the Bison to their first 2 Patriot League women's cross-country titles, Carly was part of 5 league championship track and field teams. She's one of only 2 athletes in league history to win 3 gold medals in the 10,000-meter run. And to this day, she's one of only 6 Bison ever to break 36 minutes in the 10K in outdoor track and field. Only Hall of Famer Judy Perry had ever run a faster time when Carly set her PR at the Penn Relays during her senior year. Carly was also an outstanding student at Bucknell as a cell biology major, and she was named the 2000 Patriot League Track and Field Scholar Athlete of the Year. She continued to run competitively after graduation and ran the marathon in the 2004 and 2008 U.S. Olympic trials. She was later named to the Patriot League's All-Decade and 25th Anniversary teams. This is not Carly's first Hall of Fame induction. In 2017, she was elected to the Northeast PA chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. And now tonight, in recognition of her outstanding career as one of the top distance runners in school history, the Bucknell University Department of Athletics and Recreation is proud to welcome Carly Graytock Shea, class of 2000, to the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame.
upon recommendation of the appropriate selection committee, it is an honor to officially induct you into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame, a symbol of such membership I place in your hands as an expression of Bucknell's pride in your accomplishments. Congratulations.
Hi, everyone. First off, thank you to the Hall of Fame Selection Committee and Bucknell Athletics. I'm very grateful for this recognition. It means a lot. Congratulations as well to my fellow inductees this evening. I'd also like to thank my family and friends that are in attendance here to celebrate tonight, as well as those who couldn't be here but offered many words of support upon the news of my induction. But most importantly, I want to thank the late coach Art Goulden and the teammates I had while I was here at Bucknell. This honor is a result of a great leader who had the ability to create a familial environment where we all worked hard and worked together to accomplish big goals. To me, this is not an individual accomplishment, but rather a product of all those people along the way here at Bucknell that helped to motivate me, encourage me, and to push me to never let me settle and to have me continually setting big goals. When I came to Bucknell, I had been a good but not a great high school cross-country and track runner, and I got the sense that my fellow first-year teammates were roughly the same. We all had some notable performances as high school runners, but none of us came in expecting to go to an NCAA championship or even win a Patriot League title for that matter. But quickly I learned that Coach Goulden had a sense of finding the kids who did fairly well in high school, but clearly had more to give and improve on. He knew how to find those of us that had some talent, but also, and more importantly, a strong work ethic that would allow us to buy into his philosophy and do the work necessary to develop into great runners by the time we were done at Bucknell. One of the other things I quickly learned in my early days at Bucknell was that there was a strong sense of history and pride and tradition in the program. And initially, this was primarily centered on the men's team, and that was largely because it had been around much longer than the women's team. And Coach had way more experience coaching men at a collegiate level than women. We would sit around before and after practice, and I mean, you would hear countless times about all of the awesome men's teams and alums who had been at Bucknell. I think most people had the top 10 performance list memorized, especially for the men's team. We would hear about the men who continued to compete post-collegiately. There's a relay out in Oregon called Hood to Coast, and I think year after year they would put together Bucknell alumni teams to compete and sometimes win this relay. And we'd hear also there were men that were qualifying for the Olympic trials, and so, you know, again, you probably noticed that the focus was largely on the men's program and the history, and this wasn't a bad thing because I think overall, for both the men and the women on the team at the time, it really did instill in us that big things had been done in the program's past. And we all on the team at the time felt a huge sense of pride to be associated with this program, a program in which Coach Goulden had guided the men's cross-country team to 9 NCAA appearances in the span of 14 years. That said, I think the women that were on the team with me at the time felt that, okay, well, the men's program has this sort of regard, let's get the women's team there. And I think I lucked out in that I had a group of women my year and the years ahead of me that we just felt collectively that we wanted to elevate the women's program to that level. So I feel very fortunate that on my very first day of practice here my freshman year, I was in the presence of many of the women who I feel led the charge to make the women's cross-country and track team what became a pretty dominant force over the next several years. There was quite an evolution of the women's program while I was here. One specific example, my freshman year as a team for cross-country, there's the regional race, and it was sort of mentioned there. The regional race is the race that is used to determine who makes it to the NCAA championships. So my freshman year as a team, we finished third, but it was in the race that was essentially a JV race. because we were not good enough to be competing in the race to make it to NCAAs. That race was for the 20 or so teams like Villanova, Georgetown, you know, the bigger programs, Penn State. They had business being in that race. We did not. But by my senior year, we once again did finish third, but this time it was the race. It was the race to qualify for NCAA. So that meant a lot to those of us that had been there those 4 years, to go from third in the JV race to third at the big dance, you know, to make it to NCAAs. And, you know, another aspect of how the team evolved while I was here, coming in freshman year, we were barely able to compete with Army. And at the time, Army was like the dominant team in the Patriot League. But by the time I graduated, we had won several Patriot League team championships, including Triple Crowns. And for anyone not familiar with that, a Triple Crown is winning the team championships in cross country, indoor track, and outdoor track and field. When it came to working together, and that was a big thing with our team, we worked together and we worked as a team. But Coach Goulden, he was particularly fond of the following passage from Rudyard Kipling's Law of the Jungle, which reads, "Now this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky. And the wolf that shall keep it may prosper, but the wolf that shall break it must die. As the creeper that girdles the tree trunk, the law runneth forward and back, for the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack." We heard this a lot, and we as a team, we really took it to heart and embraced Coach Goulden's emphasis on team first and racing as a pack. This pack racing was especially true my senior year. For cross country, your team score is the top 5 runners, and so whatever place you finish, that's the number of points that go towards your point total. So ideally, you win by the lower the point total. So ideally, you get as low of a point total as possible to finish as well as you can. And so, so we had interchangeable number 1, number 2, number 3 on the team, but our 5 were always racing as one big pack, and it was actually pretty awesome to be running that way, because we had bright orange singlets, and it's empowering to be running on a course and you just have this sea of orange, like either leading the race or could be pretty awesome if you're running up on like a competitor from another team and they're just engulfed in orange. I don't know, made us feel pretty awesome to do that and to do it all together. So one of the funnest experiences of racing like that as a pack was at the Patriot League Team Championship that year. We won, and it was with what I think might still be a league record of 17 points. So as I said, the lower the point total, the better. We finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th at the league meet. Not for that darn Lafayette girl breaking us up, but we were really, really psyched about that. It was just a super fun race, and everyone had a blast doing it. So, and the pack racing kind of carried forward into the next race, which was the regional meet, the race to qualify for NCAAs. In that meet, we had, I think, our top 5 in the top 25 of the regional race, and the team score ended up having us finish 3rd. So that qualified us for the NCAA championships by way of an at-large bid, because we had earned enough points throughout the season beating other teams, other big teams earlier on, like West Virginia, Penn State, Brown, and Florida. And I will have to say that qualifying as a team for the NCAAs, that's definitely one of my highlights of my time at Bucknell. And it was especially meaningful because I did it alongside of my best friend on the team, Jen Hart, and she was also my co-captain. As freshman year forward, we always heard about these amazing men's teams that had gone to NCAAs and how well they had done and how consistently great they were. And so to get the women's team to that point was it meant a lot to us. And I will say that accomplishment was not just the women on the team that season and in that moment. It really was a product of the women who had come before us and ran with us in the several years leading up to that. Women like Julie Schweitzer, Annie Hamlin, and Charlotte Sherrill. But it truly was a high note to end my collegiate cross-country running on. Kind of like the fellows here before mentioned, I think time at Bucknell, you learn a lot, and there's just so many life experiences and life lessons that you gain while here, and so many of them were imparted on me by Coach Goulden, and a few that like I still try and hold to today. Putting in hard work, and work that may be uncomfortable at times, but it's 100% worth it for the results at the end. Setting goals and making plans to achieve them, and having the discipline and self-accountability to stick with those plans. This one I think is a pretty important one. Learning how to work with people who are different than you or have different backgrounds, but working together to achieve a common goal. And then little things like getting 8 hours of sleep a night and being on time. They're simple, but I think they're important, and I have to admit, those two have slid a bit since having my children, Conrad and Emmy. I love you, but I still try and as best as I can make an effort to do those things. And I always hear Coach Goulden's voice in my head when I think of these little things that I'm trying to do. I am forever grateful for my experience as a student athlete at Bucknell. It gave me another family away from my own. It gave me a stronger belief in myself and my abilities. And it also gave me the experience of being in the presence of some amazing people. The most important being Coach Goulden, who continues to influence my life even today. And he's the reason I'm standing up here. And thank you, Linda Goulden, for being here with us tonight to celebrate. So thank you again. It's an honor.
Our next inductee from the class of 2010 is David Marble. The Bucknell wrestling program made a triumphant return to varsity status starting in 2005, and thanks in large part to a couple of impact recruiting classes right off the bat. David Marble was a member of Coach Dan Wernsberger's first class, and tonight he takes a well-earned place alongside teammates Andy Rendos and Kevin LaValle in the Hall of Fame. David was a 4-year team captain, a feat that only he and Rendos have achieved in the history of the Bison wrestling program, and he qualified for the NCAA championship in all 4 of his years. After finishing 6th at the EIWA championships as a freshman, David came back as a sophomore and made it all the way to the 133-pound title bout, where he lost by only 1 point to his opponent from Navy. In 2009, in only the program's 3rd year back from reinstatement, the Bison finished 3rd at the EIWA championships and had 5 wrestlers earn automatic bids to the NCAAs. David was one of them, finishing 4th right on his seed at 133 pounds at EIWAs. As a senior, the Bison were right near the top again, finishing 4th as a team in one of the best conferences in the country, and David was again on the podium with a strong 3rd place finish. After losing in the semifinals to the eventual champion from Cornell, David bounced back with 2 straight pins to finish 3rd, making him and Rendos the first 2 wrestlers in team history to be conference place winners in 4 straight years. David was the first ever winner of the team's William A. Graham Most Outstanding Wrestler Award, and he went on to finish with a career record of 111 and 44. 7 of those wins came in NCAA championship competition. He had a 30-win season as a senior, and his 111 career wins are still 5th most in team history. David enjoyed his time at Bucknell so much that he returned after graduation, first as an assistant coach and later as an annual giving officer in the Office of University Advancement. In recognition of his outstanding career with the Bison wrestling program, the Bucknell University Department of Athletics and Recreation is proud to welcome David Marble, class of 2010, to the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame.
Standing up, I like it. Upon recommendation of the appropriate selection committee, it is an honor to officially induct you into Bucknell's Athletic Hall of Fame. A symbol of such membership I place in your hands as an expression of Bucknell's pride in your accomplishments. Congratulations.
John, you had to bring up that 1 point in the finals. Still stings. Pav, I'll take that stool now wherever you are. I don't know where you went. Congratulations to my fellow inductees, and thank you to the Hall of Fame committee for this great honor. I'm very excited to join my teammates and very good friends, Andy Rendas and Kevin LaValle. They were both in my wedding and I theirs, and so you can get a taste of what Bucknell means to me. This honor has given me the greatest gift possible. When my wife and I tell the kids which parent was more athletic, I finally have some ammo to win my first argument, so thank you. No guarantees, but thank you very much. But even before that, wrestling and Bucknell have given me everything that I need. It led me to my wife, Nicole. I met Nicole through a Bucknell wrestling connection. 1 week before we wrestled George Mason, my coach, Dave Hoffman, told me that their coach expected a win that night, and I was furious because I had beaten him just a couple of weeks before. I trained harder than ever, and it turned out that he told me a complete lie. Hoffman did it to fire me up so we would get a team win. And this gentleman now was a friend of Nicole's, a friend of mine, and that's how we ended up meeting and how I started my beautiful family. That's my little Bay Addison, the loud one in the front. Nicole is an avid, rabid wrestling fan now. That's one of the many things that I love about her. Before that, I had my dad. We came to this district often because the wrestling is among the best in the country. He let me weigh in on when and where we would go. He told me that he would take me anywhere that we needed to go, and he did. He dragged my sister around often. She didn't get any input. Then I realized that wrestling is not an individual sport. If I asked the group, 90% would think that wrestling is an individual sport, and the other 10% would think that we do WWE. I'm not that tall, clearly. My dad was my first coach, psychologist, nutritionist, strength coach. He taught me confidence and how to be self-motivated. My sister was my partner for extra workouts. She was also my first friend and confidant. I wouldn't be here or the man I am without them. In high school, I got better partners, more friends, and more out of my coaches. Coach Quick taught me discipline, technique, and revived our program from nothing, another program almost removed. He taught us about character and what it means to lead. Mr. Quick gave me odd jobs to have some extra money. I'm sorry, I'm sure there's still paint all over your driveway from when I painted your fence. He sat me down to fill out college questionnaires, one of which was for Bucknell, and he was pivotal in me coming here. Josh and his wife, Steph, have remained friends ever since, and I'm forever indebted to you. Then I finally got to Bucknell. As a new program, we were born into adversity, and that's what made us tough. With an all-freshman team, we didn't know what was going on, but we had to come up with our own rules. We were the new normal before the new normal was cool. Anyone else's hands really sweaty? I got better coaches, better partners, teammates, like LaValle, Ritchie, Hooks, Rendas, Hart, Hahn, many, many others. We had a full-time strength coach, and shout out to Jerry Schreck if he's here. He did a lot of great work with us. We had a nutritionist, although Dad Bod says I never use them. We had advisors, great faculty, mentors, fans, and a big wrestling family. We pushed each other and held each other accountable, on and off the mat. This is not an individual sport. In fact, my favorite stats are the records we set as a team. We could mention them another date. One of my favorite things to ask my daughter from Alfred and the Batman Begins is, hey, Addison, why do we fall down? Say it louder. To learn to pick ourselves up, that's right. Werns, Coach Hoffman, and others force us to fall. I swear they tried to kill us during preseason. Anyone watching had to think that we were actually mad. In reality, they were teaching us the limits of our body and our mind. Our coaches in Bucknell allowed us to pick ourselves back up and become better for it. I learned more about sacrifice, time management, teamwork, and what hard work really means. I'll never forget one saying things like, anything in life worth having is hard. If you want to be a better employee, father, etc., you need to do things these way. You'll hear these if you haven't already. We learned from Dan Gable, once you have wrestled, everything else in life is easy. I like to think that few things worth having are easy, but once you have played insert your college sport, especially at Bucknell, everything else feels a little bit easier. I feel fortunate to have come here when I did. I'm a product of a great circumstance, and I hope that this honor is felt by every coach, teammate, staff member that was involved with our team. Warren's Coach Hoffman, Coach Quick, and my dad deserve most of the credit for what I have accomplished. I've been to so many weddings and I'm blessed with so many great relationships because of this place. Dan's son, Maxwell Graham, was the ring bearer in our wedding. It's rumored that his first words were Dave Marble because I would do something every day to upset Dan. He would bring it home to Dana, and so that's what's rumored to be his first words anyway, Made Marble. I was home cutting firewood when Dan called to ask if I wanted to come back to coach, and so I started my first job here after graduating. The Warrensburgers are like a second family to me, and I'll always love them. I learned everything that I needed to know to become happy and create success here. It's been so fun to go on this ride with my teammates and to continue this ride, come to things like this, Okie State coming soon. Speaking of teammates, Shane Ritchie over there, Hall of Fame committee, is another member of the class of 2010 that isn't in the Hall of Fame now, but he deserves to be. I'd like to formally nominate him now. You can stand up if you'd like, Shane. Shane deserves to be in. Please get him in. Lastly, as a former gift officer for athletics, I'd like to ask you to take out your checkbooks. Just kidding. No one uses checks. You can go to bucknellbison.com or see Tom Harvey. But seriously, the Bison need your support. The kids deserve your support. The kids earn your support every long day and night. I wouldn't have gone to Bucknell without financial aid. I wouldn't have come without a great D1 wrestling program. I owe that to Bill Graham, many alumni and supporters that made it possible to compete at the highest level. I may work at Georgetown, but I will always, always bleed orange and blue. Go Bison.
Our next Hall of Fame inductee from the class of 2011 is Doug Shribman. When you think of the greatest sluggers in baseball history, you immediately think of the legendary Babe Ruth. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a limb here. We're going right to the Babe. The Babe changed the game with his home run prowess, and he surpassed the previous records by incredible margins. When the Babe hit a record 29 home runs in 1919, the previous mark had been 12. And when he hit 60 homers in 1927, he eclipsed 12 other teams and accounted for 14% of the home runs hit in the American League that year. When you look back at the career that Doug Shribman had at Bucknell, his home run impact in the team and Patriot League history is actually pretty comparable to the Babe. When Doug hit 21 home runs as a junior in 2010, he eclipsed the previous school record of 14. He out-homered 2 other Patriot League teams all by himself, and he accounted for nearly 10% of all the home runs hit in the Patriot League that season. Doug's career total of 43 home runs eclipsed the previous school record of 24, and only 4 other players in Bucknell history have hit as many as 21 career homers, and Doug did that in 1 season. I should note that in the same year that Doug hit 21, Andy Brous hit 17, which is second all time. Andy's here tonight. So. Even more impressive, these truly eye-popping power numbers weren't just compiled in meaningless games. In 2010, Doug's postseason performance in carrying the Bison to a Patriot League championship is legendary. In 6 Patriot League tournament games, he hit 7 home runs, including 2 3-run homers and a 12-7 victory in the 3rd and deciding game of the championship series up at Holy Cross. And for good measure, he had an 8th postseason home run against Virginia Tech in the NCAA regionals. Today, if you hit 8 home runs in a season, that puts you in the top 15 in school history, and Doug did that in 3 consecutive weekends. It wasn't just the homers. Doug graduated with a career batting average of .347, an on-base percentage of .434, and an OPS of 1098. The Babes was only a tick higher at 1163. Doug actually came to Bucknell as a pitcher and was a freshman reserve on the 2008 team that won the Patriot League title and shocked Florida State in the opening round of the NCAA regionals that year. He became a full-time hitter as a sophomore and went on to drive in 153 runs in 3 seasons, the second most in team history, behind only fellow Hall of Famer Tyler Prout. Prior to his senior year, the NCAA put some restrictions on the bats to try and reduce the number of home runs. Nice try, but Doug hit 16 in 2011, the 3rd most in Bucknell and Patriot League history. No player in league history has hit more than 13 since then. Doug was a 3-time All-Patriot League honoree and an academic All-Patriot League selection as a senior. Also, as a senior, he was invited to Omaha to compete in the college home run derby. And just to bring this back full circle, the champion of that college home run derby the following season was a promising kid from Fresno State, a sophomore named Aaron Judge, who is also being compared to the Babe these days. In recognition of his outstanding career on the baseball diamond, the Bucknell University Department of Athletics and Recreation is proud to welcome Doug Shribman, class of 2011, to the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame.
Now, before I officially induct our last one, I used to get on Dave when he worked here. He's no longer here, but I'm going to get on him anyway. He left out one of the best ways to give is to look on the back of your program, and there's a QR scope that you can scan, and that will take you to the giving. Upon recommendation of the appropriate selection committee, it is an honor to officially induct you into the Bucknell Athletics Hall of Fame. A symbol of such membership I place in your hands as an expression of Bucknell's pride in your accomplishments. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. All right, first things first, forgive me in advance. You could put me in front of 10,000 screaming fans and regional at South Carolina, and I don't think I would be nervous. I might strike out. I did that a couple times, but I don't think I'd be nervous. Put me in front of a microphone, in front of friends and family to receive this great honor, and I'm a bit nervous up here. When I sat down to write the speech, I really had no idea what I would be saying. It's really, truly hard to put into words how special Bucknell is and what my time and baseball career at the school have meant to me. How do you thank so many people that have truly shaped the person I've become today? I got to thinking, what have other people said to me about this place, my baseball career, and my accomplishments? Some of those things I thought about were inspirational, some were funny, some were heartfelt, some were emotional, and honestly, some were just flat wrong. With that said, their words helped create the basis for this speech. In the fall of 2006, I was a high school senior, and I was trying to pick what college to go to. Obviously, Bucknell was at the top of that list, but I hate to admit it, Lafayette was also in the running. Ultimately, I made my choice to attend Bucknell and had to make the awkward call to Lafayette head coach Joe Kinney to tell him the news. You probably don't know Joe Kinney, but he was a scary guy for an 18-year-old kid, and I was truly dreading making this call. When I finally did pick up the phone to make the call and tell him that I'd picked Bucknell, he responded with probably the most incorrect thing that's ever been said to me. His exact quote was, "Biggest mistake of your life, son." And honestly, in shock, I think I apologized again and just tried to get off the phone as quickly as I possibly could. At the time, I hoped that Coach Kinney was wrong, but today I'll tell you that it was the most incorrect thing that anyone has ever said to me. While at Bucknell, my friends, teammates, and coaches were truly my family. In the van after a game in Florida, I was sitting next to one of my best friends and future Hall of Famer, Andy Brous, and we both had open cuts from either diving or sliding during that morning's game. Excuse me. Andy noticed the blood stains on our uniforms and declared, "Look, we're blood brothers," and I consider all my teammates, friends, and coaches my blood brothers. I can honestly say that without each of them being there pushing me, making me the best version of myself that I could be, I would never achieve this great honor. It was with all their dedication, competitiveness, and most importantly, friendship that allowed me to achieve this honor, and for that I'll forever be thankful. On top of the teammates, coaches I played for also deserve a special thank you, particularly Coach Depew and Coach Heather. Coach Depew had many famous sayings, but there's one that sticks with me most today. To preface, playing baseball in the Northeast meant freezing cold practices on the football field turf in the middle of February, trying to get ready for early season games. And it was honestly pretty miserable. It was at this point that Coach Depew would walk over to you and quietly just sort of say, "Doug, there are plenty of people wasting their lives sleeping their lives away right now, but you get to be here." At the time, I thought he was just being funny. Now I understand I would give any amount of sleep just to have one more practice, even if we're on the football field on a Saturday morning in February. I try not to waste a single day and wish Coach Depew were here, still with us tonight so I could celebrate and have just one more cold beer with him. I also consider Coach Heather to be a friend, and I'm thankfully still part of the program that I love so much. Luckily, I've had plenty of beers with Coach Heather, and I plan to have a few more tonight with him. Coach Heather's incessant compete is a mantra that I think about often. Both Coach Depew and Coach Heather's direction led me to this podium tonight, and both will always have a special place in my heart. I also have to give a huge shout out to my sister, Leslie, who's been there for it all. Growing up, my life was sports, and I was always playing something, all year long. Leslie had to endure 20 years of hearing, Doug hit a home run today, or we're heading to Bucknell to watch baseball. She may have been sick of hearing about it, but her love and support never wavered. I followed Leslie to New York after graduation and love that we are so close. Our recent one-on-one ski trip to Utah and our yearly fantasy football teams mean everything to me. Lucky for her, I think this might be the end of having to hear about any of my sports accomplishments, but I know that regardless of what I'm doing, she'll always still love and support me. Now, there's some crazy stat about how Bucknell students end up marrying one another at an incredibly high rate. I don't know what that exact number is, I just know that I'm one of those lucky people. I met my wife, Lauren, at our first Bucknell class, the very romantic Politics of Holocaust Memories. Before we were ever in a relationship, we had years of being close friends. I still consider Lauren my best friend. Not everyone can remember the best day of their life, but I remember the best too. The first, the day I proposed and she said yes, yelling all the way home, "We're getting married!" And the second, the day we said, "I do," 5 years ago next Friday. The last 5 years of being married and the 15 years since that Holocaust Memories class have had ups and downs for sure, but there's no one else I'd rather have next to me on this roller coaster ride. I love the family we've built with our dog named Bucky. I used to listen for your walkout song on the softball field and take a peek to see how you did, most of the time spraying a ball the other way, something that I was totally incapable of doing. I think I was secretly your #1 fan. When you were playing, you would come to our games and support me and the team. 15 years later, you are still my biggest support, and I am still your #1 fan. I know how lucky I am to be with you, and know that you will always be the love of my life. Now my parents. My athletic career started in Little League in Marblehead, Mass, in Getchell's Park, playing on teams like the Lookouts, the White Sox, the Dodgers, the Angels, onto high school at Belmont Hill, and then finally onto Bucknell. This is not to mention countless other summer teams and other sports each season. My career playing meaningful sports finally ended in 2011 with a playoff loss to Navy. Throughout it all, I could count on my parents being there, and usually providing the team with a bucket of gum and seeds to last the weekend. My dad often coaching in the early years and chatting with opposing players in the later years, and my mom scoring the games with a fresh scorebook at the beginning of each season, drawing a heart around the book drawing a heart in the book around each at-bat each time I hit a home run. It was finally over on that day in 2011 at Navy. Coming off the field that day, hoping that it wasn't over for my career, but knowing it could be, I broke down from the emotion of it all. My parents hugged me like I was still a kid at Getchell's Park, and with the simple words that have stuck with me all this time, "We are both so proud of you." Thank you for always being proud of me and for everything. Thank you for always being proud of me for everything I've done, not just on the fields, but off them as well. I wouldn't be here today or half the person I am without you both. I just hope you continue to draw hearts around the accomplishments and continue to be proud of me. Finally, when Todd Newcomb called earlier this year and asked me what I was doing on September 30th, and proceeded to tell me that I was going to be inducted into the Bucknell Hall of Fame, I was honored to be included. People always say that college is going to be the best 4 years of your life, and for me it truly was. Bucknell is such a special place. I'll always cherish my time at Bucknell and the people I met along the way. It's an honor to be a member of this Hall of Fame class, and this memory is icing on the cake to my Bucknell journey. Thank you all again. Ray Bucknell.
No finer example of what makes Bucknell great than these 5 right up here. Congratulations to our Hall of Famers. So just some housekeeping real quick before we end the evening. I know a lot of people are back for homecoming weekend. I just want to go over real quick what's happening tomorrow involving Bison athletics. Women's rowing kicks it off at 9 a.m. down on the river, rowing against Lehigh. We got women's soccer at home against Holy Cross at noon. We've got the football game against Lafayette at 3:30, and then we've got men's soccer home against Lafayette at 6 p.m. And before I close, do any of you have somebody else you want to nominate for the Hall of Fame? Already got that one, and I already got that one. I'm just kidding. Great night. Again, congratulations to everybody. Go Bison, Ray Bucknell.
Congratulations.